station, as well as watch us on SuperTalk TV on your computer, your mobile device. Now, today is also National Purple Heart Day. It commemorates the creation of the oldest American military decoration for military merit. The Purple Heart honors the men and women who are of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And joining us today is Scott Burns. He is working with 7 Days for the Troops. You would know him from that, but also has worked a lot with Purple Heart Homes, who have looked to Mississippi to help veterans in need in that way. And I thought it'd be a good day to catch up with you, Scott, and see what's going on and what you got on the horizon. So welcome back.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, and it's great that you're calling at the time, or that we're talking at the time we're talking, because I am actually waiting in Okolona, Mississippi, to welcome home a 76-year-old veteran who just recently had a leg amputated, and because of the help of Purple Heart Homes and 7 Days for the Troops, we were able to build him a wheelchair ramp and a deck and cover so that he could get safely in his house. So that's just some of the things that we're doing right now, teaming up with Purple Heart Homes and 7 Days for the Troops.
So let's talk about Purple Heart Homes. You connected with them through 7 Days for the Troops a couple years ago and been doing great work. But they do very specific work, obviously, which is needed, and that's great. But give us a little background about them and the work that they do on a daily basis.
Well, they have a mission of making a safe living space for veterans. They started it was started by two Purple Heart recipients that had came home after being injured in Afghanistan and wanted to give back and do more. And so they started going in and remodeling houses and make them handicap accessible for veterans. Now they do a tiny home program for veterans and do things like we're doing with the wheelchair ramp. But their niche is home specific and making homes handicap accessible for disabled veterans. And
something we take for granted, right, Scott? Like you think about, what a ramp will do to change that veteran's life, what wider installation, if they find themselves wheelchair bound within their home, helps them to sort of move through, even though if they have a home, but helping to change that where it makes it more comfortable and functional for everyday living. I mean, these are impacts that really you can't really put a price tag on, can you, Scott?
You really can't. And as somebody I'm a disabled veteran. I use a wheelchair around my house, and so I know that initial, when you get injured and you come home, whether it's an injury that you served while you were in combat or like this veteran that had an infection that led to an amputation, most houses aren't made for wheelchairs. Their doorways aren't wide enough, and the bathrooms aren't made for, the wheelchair accessibility. And so you really don't think about those things until you have somebody that ends up being in a wheelchair and they can't do simple things like go to the bathroom without somebody helping them, or even getting in and out of their house. The veteran that we're working with today, he has probably a 40-foot drop coming out of his front door. So he's not going to be able to get in and out of his house easily if he didn't have this wheelchair ramp. And so people don't really notice it until it affects them personally. And so we want to help kind of bring that to the forefront, that there are veterans that are in need and individuals that are in need, and help make their lives a little bit easier.
So, Scott, how did this veteran in Okolona, as you said, you were in Mississippi today, how did they get connected with Purple Heart Homes? Is that kind of where 7 Days for the Troops, I know you raise funds and then also help with the financial side of it and give donations too, but how are Mississippi veterans in need getting connected with Purple Heart Homes? Because I know they service Mississippi, but they also service a few other states as well, I think. So, how does that connection get made?
Well, the way this one happened is we had the sister of the veteran had found out about 7 Days for the Troops and called us and asked us if we knew anybody that would be able to get him a ramp in the next couple of months. And we found out about it, and just knowing that he was going to be coming home from the hospital soon, I knew that he needed that ramp sooner than later. And so I reached out to our partners at Purple Heart Homes and told them what we were doing and what we were needing, and they provided the material. And then we had some volunteers from North Mississippi that showed up in Okolona and spent 2 or 3 days building this ramp and the things for this veteran. But that's a network that we've built to work together with other veteran nonprofits that where 7 Days for the Troops may not have the resources to do it, we know groups like Purple Heart Homes that we can reach out to and say, hey, we need your help.
So you've helped a lot of different ways with 7 Days for the Troops, and one way we can help is also helping what you do and some of the events. So, Scott, since the last time you've been here, what you been up to with 7 Days for the Troops? Have you been climbing things, hanging out up there for long periods of time, or got one on the horizon?
Yeah, well, we had one back in June, which was a very successful one for us, but then we've got 2 coming up. That I'm hoping to see one of my friends at, and I think I've talked to her about already. But we've got one coming up in Pearl that's going to be in November. And then we also have one coming up at the Vicksburg Tallulah Airport in October. And so those 2 deals, I'll build a tower. I'll camp out on top of them for 7 days at a time. And 100% of the money that we raise will go to help veterans in Mississippi.
How many years have you been doing this, Scott?
This is our 19th year. We've got big plans for next year, our 20-year anniversary of 7 Days for the Troops. But we've been doing this and helping veterans. It was an idea that started of me wanting to serve, and I couldn't be in the military anymore. But I was like, I want to do my part. And so I built a tower in the mall parking lot in Tupelo and camped out on top of it for 7 days. And here we are 19 years later, and it's become its own nonprofit, and we've helped hundreds of veterans, raised almost $1 million in 19 years, with 100% of that going to help veterans from dying wheelchair ramps to we've done 3 tiny homes in North Mississippi because of the efforts of 7 Days for the Troops and Purple Heart Homes.
Scott, you need to get out your calculator and you need to figure out how many hours over the last almost now 20 years that you have slept or spent above ground for this. That would make for a great number. I mean, I'm sure I could do math. Rhino could probably do the math like really quickly. But how many events have you had over the last almost 20 years? Now you're going to make me say 20 years, 19 years.
I want to say that we've had a total of 30 events over the last 19 years.
So 30 times 7 times 24 would be a rough estimate. I'm looking at Rhino like, come on now, you math with
5,040.
Look what he did. 5,040-ish. We'll give you that. Would be about how many hours you've spent. And and you that kind of effort put in, you get $1 million back that goes back to veterans. And I know you're not stopping there at all. If someone listening wants to get involved with the ones you have coming up, what are you looking for in terms of either sponsorships or you still do your raffles? How do people support you, Scott?
We're definitely still looking for some businesses that want to sponsor and put their name on our tower. We're looking for donations. And because I had this opportunity to talk to you, one of the things that we realized, like when we did this deck for the veteran that we're working with and fixing to welcome them home, the deck is in place, but if you could see the location where he has to park and then go from his car to his deck is it needs to be a concrete pad put down. And so that was not part of what we initially were going to do, and we can do that, but we got to have money to do that. So if you want to make a donation and say, hey, we want to make veterans' lives better, you can go to our website, which is the number 7 daysforthetroops.org, 7daysforthetroops.org, or simply send me a text and say, hey, can I get a link to donate? And you can text me at 662-401-3349. That's 662-401-3349. And just know that if you make a donation, 100% of that dollar goes to help veterans. We don't have a paid staff at 7 Days for the Troops, and so we can use money to help veterans and not pay bills.
That sounds great. And what a great day, too, on Purple Heart Day, that you guys get the opportunity to welcome home a veteran to a home that will welcome him a little bit easier with his new transition in life. So pretty cool. When are you expecting him home, Scott?
He should be home in the next 20 minutes. So we're excited, and we're patiently waiting for him to get home. We're excited for him to see the deck. I don't know that he knows that we did this for him. His sister set all this up. And so what we have learned about him is he's 76 years old, and he's very active. He still hunts, rides a four-wheeler, and does things like that, and just unexpectedly had an infection that caused him to lose a leg below the knee. And so we wanted to make sure that when he got home, he could still get in and out of his house and that not be something he has to worry about. So we're excited for him to get home here shortly.
I love that, Scott. I'm so grateful that Good Things got to be a part of this special day on Purple Heart Day. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us as always, and hopefully I'll see you in Pearl in November.
All righty. You guys stick with us. We got more for you coming.